Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted the number 1 would be Deadpool and Wolverine, number 2 would be Twisters, number 3 would be Despicable Me 4, number 4 would be Inside Out 2, and number 5 would be Longlegs. And hallelujah, got all 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. Thank God for the one new release weekend where it's very obvious where it's going to end up in the overall top 5. Some of you also got your predictions right as well, so congratulations to all of you. You know, we all kind of had the right idea. Reminder that if you make your predictions and then edit your comment, but it looks like you got your predictions right, I have no way of knowing that you edited that comment before or after the reports of what the top 5 are. You know what I mean? Like, so delete your comment, redo the predictions if you made a mistake or something like that. You know what I mean? I have to say that every once in a while because sometimes you'll see a pop-up. And then also some of you thought that potentially Inside Out 2 would hold over a little better and finally overtake Despicable Me 4, which, you know, great thinking, you know, outside of the box. You guys are rocking it, making different kind of predictions. That's what makes the show pretty cool, is that you'll get different perspectives, different mindsets when it comes to these predictions and thoughts about what could be happening next with the box office. But you're wrong this weekend. So let's go over what happened in the overall top 10. Number 1 was obviously Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't really think it was a case of like, oh my gosh, is it going to do well, or is it going to get to... It obviously was going to be number 1, and obviously it was going to do well just based off of the hype, you know, that was surrounding this film for, I mean, pretty much ever since it was announced. Like, as soon as they announced, like, Hugh Jackman is Backman, it was kind of like, oh, well, yeah, no matter what else comes out about the movie critically or how it looks in the marketing, it'll probably still do well because people want to see that, and it deals with the time variance authority, touching on the multiverse, so you will have all these things coming in, and if you're lucky, you would have seen it before Comic-Con spoiled it for you. So yeah, I don't think it was ever a question of, you know, is it going to do better than the Marvels and Quantum? Obviously it's going to do better than those ones. It's just how many records is it going to break, if any? And it did. It opened to $205 million for the domestic weekend. Worldwide, it is sitting at $438 million. So let's go over the stats for both these, the records and then the different charts that we're going to be examining here. Domestically, it is the 8th highest opening weekend ever. That is 3 million over Black Panther, 2 million below the original Avengers, and then also those same stats apply to this other record it broke, which is 5th highest opening weekend for a superhero film domestically ever. So there you go. And then it is also the highest R-rated opening weekend for a film ever. It is 73 million over the original number 1, which was the original Deadpool. So that just makes sense. Makes sense for that one. So obviously some really great stats out of the gate. And then worldwide, it is the biggest global debut for an R-rated film. It's also the 12th biggest worldwide debut just for any film ever. 16 million over BVS and only 3 million below The Way of Water. So there is still potentially a chance of it, you know, overtaking that one and being the 11th biggest worldwide debut. That's pretty stellar. And then as far as superhero films, it is in the top 5 biggest global superhero movie openings. The list goes: number 1, Endgame, 1.2 billion. Number 2 is Infinity War's 640 million. No Way Home's 600 million. And then Captain Marvel's 456 million. It is inching closer to Captain Marvel there as far as the opening. So whether it gets there or not with the official numbers come out, either way, it is in the top 5. And that's pretty spectacular, you know what I mean? So because this movie kind of counts as like both MCU and then closing out the X-Men Fox stuff, we're going to go over the stats for both of them. So domestically and worldwide, where it ranks with the MCU film grosses right now and then the X-Men film grosses. So for the MCU, it is 121 million over the Marvels, 71 million over the Incredible Hulk, 41 million over Eternals, 29 million over the first Avenger, 25 million over the original Ant-Man, 24 million over the original Thor, and 22 million over Black Widow. It now needs 1 million until Thor the Dark World and 9 million until Quantumania. So yeah, it's just blazing through these. You know what I mean? Because the opening weekend is so high, obviously it's going to get pretty high up. It really is just at this point, how well is it going to hold over? And I think obviously, you know, with Trap and Harold and the Purple Crayon, you'll have people that will go to see those movies, but obviously it won't rival how many people are going to be seeing Deadpool and Wolverine again, or just for the first time, you know, whatever the drop-off is even. It doesn't really matter if it's 60% or 40%, it's going to still make a lot of money, just judging by this opening weekend alone. So yeah, we'll be seeing it blaze through more of these films. which is, great for that movie. And then obviously for the X-Men stuff, it's the highest opening weekend for any X-Men film. So it's probably for both lists, domestically and worldwide, going to end up on top. I say probably, but I should be saying definitely. But either way, it's just kind of, at this point, how long is that going to take? It could be next week, could be the week after. We'll see. But right now it has cleared New Mutants by 182 million, Dark Phoenix by 140 million, The Wolverine by 73, First Class by 59, Apocalypse by 50, the original X-Men by 48 million, and X-Men Origins Wolverine by 26 million, sitting behind X2 by 9 million. So that was all just domestic numbers. So let's just breeze through the worldwide ones too. For the MCU, it is 239 million over the Marvels, 304 million over the Incredible Hulk, 68 million over the First Avenger, 59 million over Black Widow, 37 million over Eternals, and 6 million over Shang-Chi. It now sits behind the original Thor by 11 million. And then for X-Men, 391 million over the New Mutants, 192 million over Dark Phoenix, 142 million over the original X-Men, 83 million over First Class, 64 million over Origins, 32 million over X2, and 22 million over the Wolverine. It is now sitting behind X-Men The Last Stand by 21 million. God, it's going to be exhausting updating these in the next couple weeks. At least maybe the MCU stuff. There are more films to wade through. With X-Men, it might blast through the rest. We'll see though. But yeah, there you go. And I think, like I was kind of mentioning earlier, we're not really sure how the drop off is going to be next weekend, because we've seen, these, highly praised, like talked about, comic book movies open up, and the drop off, though still big numbers because they open big and people still want to see it, the drop off could be like 60%, something like that, a little over 50%, whatever it is. I think it really just depends on if the word of mouth from the fan side of it is decent enough to get more people. If people, hearing about the spoilers from Comic-Con don't give a shit, or if that is what convinced them to go see it, then, that could do it. But even the critic score, I say just fans, but even the critic score is good, like 80% last time I checked. So people have been enjoying this movie, even if they do have some critiques with it. You'll see the, every once in a while, exaggeratory, like, Twitter user go like, death of cinema, they're desperate now. It's, what the fuck did I just watch? You know what I mean? But like, you know what I mean? Like, those are like one in few, and also, they don't make up a majority. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes when you see a tweet take off, a hit tweet, sometimes that's not the majority of the world. It could be, but sometimes it's not, you know what I mean? So I think either way, it's not really worth getting too worked up about either way, like, it's doing well. People are talking about it positively for the most part, as seen by the stats there. So yeah, the movie MCU is back, even though we've been in a cycle of being dead and then back, you know what I mean? I feel like I maintain the opinion that the only reason why people are more like MCU fell off is because of the recent Disney Plus era, because they have to produce more content, in quotes. So the hit or miss kind of quality that the MCU, I feel like, has always kind of had, felt a little more consistent, just because, well, we have to do more projects for the content machine of Disney Plus. So I feel like the MCU has always kind of had a bit of like, this one is great and this one, it's more okay, or like it's decent enough. And that's, I don't think much has changed other than just the output. You know what I mean? Anyways, we don't need to keep talking about that, because wading through Marvel discourse is fucking exhausting. Let's not. Let's move on to number 2, which is Twisters. Last weekend I was talking about it'll be more interesting to see how it holds over next weekend, and yeah, you know what I mean? It had a little bit over a 50% drop. I think now that a lot of people have seen Deadpool and Wolverine, I think this movie will still continue to hold over really well, just based off of where it's sitting as far as its overall gross. So it made $35 million this weekend, which adds to a domestic total of $154 million. It places it $87 million away from outgrossing the original film. Worldwide, it is sitting at $221 million right now. So not only does that place it $274 million away from the original, but it is inching closer to doubling its either $155 million initial production budget or its $200 million initial production budget. So that's, doubling points. It's either 310 it needs to clear or 400. I think with the, kind of hold that it did have this weekend, and my ongoing prediction of like, yeah, a lot of people are going to go see Deadpool and Wolverine right now. Not necessarily, I don't think, movies, are gonna like all flop throughout August or September, but just I think it'll be low number stuff. So I do feel like there is still a potential for something like Twisters to keep making money and still have a good hold while competing with the other big movie right now. You know what I mean? With Trap also coming out, So I think this one will still have a chance to hold over well and do what I was talking about last weekend, have a, modest, respectable Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes-esque run. That's still, it'll continue to be more interesting to talk about when it's a little bit more clear where it's kind of going in the next couple weeks. But right now I'm a little more, optimistic, leaving some room in for disappointment just in case. It is a good movie, so that's why I say disappointment. It's a good movie, so I don't want it to flop, but we will see. It held over decently. It didn't drop like 70% or something like that. So like that could be the worst case scenario when opening with like a movie like Deadpool and Wolverine. So it holding over in the 50s is still decent enough. Number 3 is Despicable Me 4, making $14 million, adding to a domestic total of $290 million. It just outgrossed Despicable Me 3 by $34 million, now needs $46 million until it outgrosses the Minions film, the first one, and once it does that, it'll be in the top 3 highest grossing films in this franchise. So there you go. I think give it next weekend or the weekend no, 2 or 3 weekends. Let's say that 2 or 3 weekends, and I think it will outgross Minions at that point. Worldwide, it is sitting at $677 million. It needs $260 million until it outgrosses The Rise of Gru, so it's still inching up. Who knows if it'll still have the momentum to outgross Rise of Gru at that point, but it's already in the top 5 for the franchise here, so still doing well. I don't really have much more to add to this. It's making money. It's $23 million away from making 7 times its initial $100 million production budget, so yeah, they're all good. They're all doing well. Number 4 is Inside Out 2, making $8 million, adding to a domestic total of $613 million, and with that, it has finally outgrossed Incredibles 2 by $5 million, making it the highest grossing Pixar film, both worldwide and domestically. Hats off to Inside Out 2. I genuinely didn't think you could do it, but here we are. Now since we've cleared all of the Pixar kind of records, I do want to, for the remaining weeks that it's here, go over where it is on the all-time charts. So right now, for instance, it has outgrossed the Mario Bros. Movie by $37 million and Incredibles 2 by $5 million. So right now it is sitting at number 14th highest grossing film domestically of all time. It is $7 million away from The Last Jedi's number 13 spot, and then it's over that. Worldwide, it is sitting at $1.505 billion. And this kind of surprised me. It is already outgrossed by $41 million, the number 13 spot, which is Top Gun Maverick, the big hit from 2022. It already outgrossed that one. I didn't even see that coming. That totally took me by surprise. But I mean, wow, both good movies, so good for that. But that just really surprised me. It is $6 million away until it outgrosses the number 11 spot, which would be Furious 7. But right now, worldwide, number 12 highest grossing film ever. Wow. What is life, baby? Pixar's back, MCU is back. Oh my gosh. Not that they were even really ever gone, but whatever. Like I said, we don't need to wade into discourse or the semantics of anything. Let's just move on to number 5, which I'm the most excited to talk about. Longlegs. Still holding over incredibly well for a movie like this. We have broken a record for Neon, though. It has made $6 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $58 million. So it places it $5 million over Parasite. So domestically, it is the highest grossing film that Neon has released. Worldwide, since it's sitting at $65 million, it did outgross I, Tonya by $12 million, but now it sits behind Parasite by $188 million there. Like we talked about, there's no way it's going to make that much. The fact that reaching $100 million worldwide for Longlegs is possible is great. It's just not going to... $188 million isn't necessarily so. There's a little wiggle room for $100 million worldwide. Either way, so number 2 highest grossing Neon film worldwide, but just domestically, here in the States... That is pretty fantastic. Longlegs, highest grossing film Neon's released. That's pretty incredible. And worldwide, since it's sitting at $65 million, it is only $5 million away from making 7 times its 10 or less than 10 initial production budget. So, they're swimming in the dough, baby. It. That is so cool. I don't know. Just, there's something cool about a movie like this, which I feel like normal, if released by anybody else or made by any other kind of filmmaker or had a different kind of marketing angle, probably wouldn't have caught on like it did, but here we are, this weird fucking movie that I love, reaping the benefits of a great marketing campaign, some pretty stellar word of mouth, good stuff. Anyways, number 6 is A Quiet Place Day 1, making $3 million, adding to a domestic total of $134 million. It is $26 million away from A Quiet Place Part 2 at this point, worldwide sitting at $253. It now sits at $43 million away from Part 2. So, Yeah, I don't have much more to add. It's slowed down enough where I feel like it's just going to end up being, even though it had, I think, the highest opening for the Quiet Place franchise, it's going to end up being the lowest earning, but still, it did what, it doubled its budget, it's tripled it at this point, quadrupled, I think we talked about that, it quadrupled it, so it's good. Announce A Quiet Place Part 3, finish the story arc with that family, god damn it. Number 7 is Bad Boys Ride or Die, making $1.2 million, adding to a domestic total of $191 million. So placing it $13 million away from For Life's domestic run. Worldwide, now that it sits at $395, it is $29 million away from For Life's run. But like I've been talking about, more importantly, it is $5 million away from getting to $400 million in total, which is 4 times its $100 million initial production budget, which is, way better to think about than outgrossing For Life. The fact that it's getting as close to For Life is still pretty good. It's not like an immediate it can't even match the heights of that. It's like, no, it's gotten pretty close, even if it didn't get it entirely. You know what I mean? Either way, it's still doing well. What a time for some movies to do well. I hope number 8 isn't a complete failure. Number 8 is The Fabulous Four. Oh, fuck. Not to be confused with The Fantastic Four, making $1.01 million. Not sure what the budget of this thing is. There's no worldwide total. This is a weird movie. There have been a lot of movies lately where the whole gimmick is like getting these older women together, have them hang out for a bit, whether it's your book clubs or like summer camp a couple months ago, or that it's like there's more of these movies than you think, and none of them are like on the level of Thelma, which is a good movie about like, an elderly woman, about aging, your mortality, stuff like that. These are essentially just like regular, like generic ass comedy scripts that kind of touch on like, past regrets and aging and stuff like that, but never really handled in the way you want. The actors, even though they are of legendary status, never bring you anything that you can't find in any of their other works. There's nothing, revolutionary about these or even just entertaining. All the jokes fall flat. The acting, it always feels like they figured stuff out on the day, staging wise and stuff like that. I mean, there's a point in this movie where Megan Mullally seemingly could not finish filming the rest of the movie, so they did some like quick little scenes just to splice her in. There's a shot at the end, real quick tangent, there's a shot at the end where they're doing a big dance party at the wedding, and it's the 3 other women. Mullally, they keep cutting to Mullally like in the background. That's like how they got her in. And then she does appear in the front after a long bit, but just, and because I was already feeling weird about it, I looked at her, I like studied her, I zoned in, and it looks like she was fucking like green screened in, like it doesn't look like anyone knows that she's there. She's like like maybe the director told like, look over here real quick, and she like did that, but no one's looking at her. Insanity. What the fuck is going on with these movies? Anyways, this one flopped. So that's all we need to say about that. I just wanted to vent about that real quick, because what an abysmal movie. Number 9 is Fly Me to the Moon, making $750,000, adding to a domestic total of $19 million. For director Greg Berlanti, that is $21 million away from Love, Simon. Not getting there. Worldwide is sitting at $36 million, which places it $29 million away from Love, Simon. Not getting there. We've talked enough about the failures of Apple theatrical releases and high spending. We don't need to keep doing that. Let's move on to number 10, closing out the video. Maxine, making $231,000, adding to a domestic total of $14.6 million for A24. I figured since it's about to leave, we talked about its rankings for the X films. It's the highest grossing one. What does that mean for the rest of the A24 rankings? Well, not anything really, you know what I mean? Like, it's not as high up. I think maybe they potentially wanted this one to be a really bigger hit than it was. But it's kind of in the middle ground where like most A24 movies end up anyways, so it has outgrossed Spring Breakers and Room by a couple $100,000, and it needs $3 million now until it outgrosses Green Knight, The Whale, and The Farewell. I feel like at this rate, making the $100,000s in this weekend, not gonna do that, but that's kind of where it is. Worldwide, $18.9 million is their total, so it's outgrossed The Lighthouse by a couple $100,000 and needs $1 million until It Comes at Night. So, yeah. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. It definitely seemed like through the marketing they wanted this one to maybe break out a little bit more than it did, assembling a larger cast than they kind of had before. But nope. Anyways, now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I am going with Deadpool and Wolverine once again. And then number 2, I think will be Trap, or at least I'm hopeful for it, because I want to root for M. Night Shyamalan. I hope he's got a good hit on his hands. I'm hoping it's a great movie too. And then number 3, I think will be Twisters. Number 4 might be a bit too optimistic, but I think maybe Harold and the Purple Crayon. I don't know, just for shits and giggles. I don't think it's going to do well. I think this is definitely another Zachary Levi flop waiting to happen. But I don't know, just in case. And then number 5, I think, will be Despicable Me 4. Anyways, what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.